आनंदमयी चैतन्यमयी सत्यमयी परमे आनंदमयी चैतन्यमयी सत्यमयी परमे आनंदमयी चैतन्यमयी सत्यमयी परमे ओम नमो भगवते श्री अरविंदाय। Namaste to one and all. Very good evening. Topic for today's reflection is law of karma. In fact, generally a question may arise because all the Vedas, Upanishads, they have been authoritatively pronouncing Aham Brahmasmi, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam. We know the very first sloka in Isha Upanishad is this: Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. The whole world is Brahman. So it is very natural to get a doubt if everything is Brahman and Brahman himself is the doer. In that case, what is significance of karma in this whole thing? Is not the idea of karma incompatible with this paradigm, in the sense that the Brahman is everything and Brahman himself is the doer, and therefore nothing attaches to the Brahman? అట్లా ఉన్నప్పుడు ఇంకా కర్మ సిద్ధాంతం ఏంటి? Because nothing sticks to that Brahman, because Brahman is the ultimate Turiyam. Turiyam in the sense in Vedanta it is reality. Then how does karma work into this? Brahman being Turiyam, the reality, nothing. I mean, it's like a super Teflon. So nothing sticks to it. In fact, from this question, so many things follow. So many things in the sense morality, immorality, reward, punishment? So it's a very deep question. In simple terms, if you want to explain what is law of karma, which means every action has its results. That means every action, whatever the action that we engage, have their own consequences. Like any good actions, in alignment with the higher consciousness, or whatever we do karma in the light of the highest consciousness, which we consider as dharma. What happens? It obviously results in good merit. Then, if we get good merit, that means punyam. So dharma, good actions result in, or it generates good merit, punyam, and the punyam results in happiness. That means dharmam, punyam, sukham. Then take a different situation where if a person continuously engages in any kind of an immoral action, bad action or evil action, consciously done, I mean by becoming consciously naughty, those evil actions obviously generates the dukkham, sadness, and it results in papam, sin. Then it results in dukkham. So dharmam, sukham, dharmam, punyam, sukham, adharma, papam, dukkham. So that means the action has its own consequences. Then who holds this karma? If this theory of dharmam, punyam and sukham, and adharmam, papam, dukkham, if this theory is taken into consideration, who holds this karma? Obviously the person who feels it, the person who says that I did it. He is the agent because he is the doer. So he is the agent of this karma because he owns the action. So therefore he seems to get results of action. That means the waker. Because we are all sitting here, we are all having a waking consciousness. We are all wakers. So the person who is in a waking state of consciousness, who is the doer, gets the results and the consequences. But if we consider this from the Vedanta philosophy, but the waker is not the reality, because the Brahman is the ultimate reality, because it is considered as Turiyam. So when Brahman himself is the ultimate reality, that is the supreme truth, from the point of view of Vedanta, the waker is not the ultimate reality. If we take this Mandukya Upanishad, Mandukya says, you are not the waker. You are really A Turiyam means ultimate reality who appears as Vaikar. So by and large we see that almost all Jainism, Sikhism or Hinduism, we come across this law of karma. Whereas if we see Buddhism, though they just believe in this law of karma, but Buddhism doesn't believe in this unchanging self. There is no concept of Ishvara, but accepts this law of karma. That means the action has its consequences. One has to reap either the benefits or demerits out of this. So Buddhism accepts this, though it negates the concept of Ishvara and the unchanging self. And on the contrary, I am just giving you the broad picture. This Mandukya, this Upanishad says, ultimately it completely smashes this law of karma. There is no concept of this. It is a Brahman who is the reality. And now broadly, in fact, there are three types of reality also. One is Paramarthika. Paramarthika means ultimately supreme reality, ultimate truth. That is Paramarthika, which is absolute. Next one is transactional reality. That means we are all in the waking state of consciousness. We have been transacting with one another. This is Vyavaharika, which we inhabit, which is a very waking. We all have been witnessing the waking consciousness. So therefore ours is an empirical reality. Third one is Pratibhasika, which means illusion, error, dream, like imagining certain kind of a drop of water in the ocean and mistaking a small rope for a snake. These are all Pratibhasika. So there are three types of this reality. From point of view of Sri Aurobindo, because this law of karma is one of the most fascinating aspects of Indian thought. Sri Aurobindo says, the question is, what is karma? Sri Aurobindo says like this: all energies put into activity, thought, speech, feeling, act, go to constitute karma. I repeat, all energies put into activity. మనం ఏదో కర్మలు చేస్తున్నాం, పని చేస్తున్నాము, when we are engaging in action, that itself is not a determinative factor. Sri Aurobindo says, all energies put into activity, thought, speech, feeling, act, all they go to constitute karma. These things help to develop the nature in one direction or another, and the nature and its actions and reactions produce their consequences inward and outward. They also act on others and create movement in the general sum of forces which can return upon oneself sooner or later. Thoughts unexpressed can also go out as forces and produce their effects. Unmanifested thoughts, unexpressed thoughts, Sri Aurobindo says that those thoughts unexpressed can also go out as forces and produce their effects. So we should be very, very careful about what we have been contemplating inside also, because when everything constitutes karma, thoughts, feeling, action, speech, So we should be very, very constantly, Sri Aurobindo is giving an indication to all of us to introspect ourselves and align and always be in rhythm with the nature, so that we can elevate our conscious levels to higher and higher levels. So it's a mistake to think that a thought or will can have effect only when it is expressed in speech or act. The unspoken thought, the unexpressed will are also active energies and can produce their own vibrations, effects or reactions. అందుకే చూడండి, మనం బంధువులలో కొంతమంది, we may not be able to physically travel a long distance to certain places. It may not be sometimes practical, but by sitting at one place at our home, we simply keep on praying for them. There may be a certain situation, like our Murtigar also was just bedridden, he was hospitalized for some time, and there are certain restrictions, norms, and the restrictions also may be there in the hospital to visit. In such a situation, we have no other alternative except to sit and pray, and always we know that sincere prayer, mother also says that the sincere prayers are always answered. The provided, chudandi, it's not all the prayers, sincere prayers, sincerity must be attached to it. Mother also says the outer form only dissolves. మనకు తెలిసిందే కదా, భగవద్గీతలో శ్రీకృష్ణ సేస్ టు అర్జున, జాతస్య హి ధ్రువో మృత్యు ధ్రువం జన్మ మృతస్య చ. అంటే పుట్టిన వాళ్ళు గిట్టక తప్పదు, మరణించిన వాళ్ళు మళ్ళీ జన్మించక తప్పదు అన్నట్టుగా. ది outer form only dissolves unless that too is made conscious and is organized round the divine center. But the true mental, true vital, and even the true subtle physical persist. అంటే అవి ఉండిపోతాయి. Outer form dissolves unless that too is made conscious and is organized around the divine center, but the true mental, true vital, and even the true subtle physical persists. It is that which keeps all the impressions received in earthly life and builds the chain of karma. The Indian explanation of fate is karma. గత జన్మలో నేను ఏం పాపం చేసుకున్నానో, నార్మల్లీ మనం ఈ ఫ్యామిలీలలో, కుటుంబాలలో వింటూ ఉంటాం, నా కర్మ ఇలా అయిపోయింది, because of all my past deeds, deeds that I have done in my past life, therefore I am reaping all the consequences like this. ఒక విధంగా చెప్పాలంటే, because Swami Vivekananda also says that you are the creator of your own destiny. It all depends upon us actually, how to mold ourselves, how to train ourselves, how to introspect. Nothing no other person can teach, because in the first principles of education, mother says is nothing can be taught. It is the nature which always constantly keep us, giving us many experiences. Through those experiences, the man has to evolve. We ourselves are our own fate through our actions, but the fate created by us binds us. For what we have sown, we must reap in this life or another. Still we are creating new fate for the future, even while undergoing old fate from the past in the present. అందుకే మనకు సంచిత, ప్రారబ్ధ, ఆగామి కర్మలను అలా ఉన్నాయి కదా, 3 రకాలైనటువంటి కర్మలు. So Sri Aurobindo explained that karma should not be viewed too simplistically as an eye for an eye. Instead, it is the soul's willful choice of varied experiences. It's a soul's willful choice of varied, multiple, many. It's a soul's willful choice of varied experiences across many lifetimes to aid in its evolution. We have to view the karma with this background. It is not the question of, if I am engaging in a bad action, God really punishes me, and if I am doing some kind of an evil action, God punishes me, and in this life if I really do a very cruel thing, next life I will be born as a camel or lizard or a kind of a frog. In fact, one of the talks of Alokda, he says that we are thinking from that angle. It is looking this law of karma very crudely. It's a crude way of looking at things. It's not so. There is no concept of any kind of a reward or a punishment. Because Sri Aurobindo answers like this, that karma should not be viewed too simplistically as an eye for an eye. Instead, it is the soul's willful choice. Soul's willful choice of varied experience across many lifetimes to aid in its own evolution. Atma tana purogatiki, unna purogatiki, it takes in many kind of experiences. In the process, we feel so much pain and sometimes we feel so much joy. If we are always in the vast consciousness, we always experience so much delight. We sometimes we sit in meditation. It's an unknown bliss sometimes. So therefore the soul decides to go through this many experience in the process of its evolution. So in the process all these come up. Sri Aurobindo indicated that the laws of our being are primarily spiritual rather than purely mathematical. So ఇది చేస్తే ఇలా పాపం, ఇది చేస్తే ఇలా పుణ్యం అనే కాకుండా, we have to think from that point of view, saying that in the process of evolution, in the process of souls evolving these experience, because Savitri Sri Aurobindo also says that the psychic being, it drinks the experiences like a strengthening wine. Sri Aurobindo says in the Savitri that this psychic being, because the man is endowed with this psychic being, and this psychic being drinks all these experiences like a strengthening wine. And two more beautiful lines also from Savitri is that his past lives in him. It drives his future space. అంటే మన గతకాలం ఏదైతే ఉన్నాయో, they all just live in him. His past lives in him. It drives his future space. His present acts fashion his coming fate. అంటే ఇప్పుడు వర్తమాన కాలంలో మనం చేస్తున్నటువంటి ఈ చర్యలు ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో, that will be a determinative factor for our future. Very beautiful sentences in fact. His past lives in him, it drives his future space. His past lives in him, it drives his future space. His present acts fashion his coming fate. So therefore, a constant introspection is very much needed to correct ourselves. In fact, I doubt that there are no other countries actually which gives so much, because if we get any kind of a doubt in yoga, in fact it is always one has to go back to that Patanjali Yoga Sutra. యమ నియమ ప్రాణాయామ ప్రత్యాహార ధారణ ధ్యాన సమాధి అని మనకు అష్టాంగ యోగ సూత్రాలు ఉన్నాయి. సో ఇఫ్ యూ గెట్ ఎనీ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ facing any kind of an obstacles in the yoga, so one must refer to Patanjali Yoga. If anyone doubts or gets any doubt in the Jnana, it is Vyasa Maharshi's Brahma Sutra which has to be referred. And with regard to any doubts in relation to that adoration, bhakti, it is the Narada Bhakti Sutra. One has to refer. So therefore, why I am indicating this is to you is that in the process of this soul's evolution, if we get any kind of displeasure and pain, or in the process of resolving so many conflicts, or resolving any clouds of doubt, all these sources are available with us. So it is our own choice actually to refer all those and ultimately evolve. Further, Sri Aurobindo also says, karma is nothing but the will of the spirit in action. Consequence is nothing but the creation of will. What is in the will of being expresses itself in karma and consequence. When the will is limited in mind, karma appears as a bondage and a limitation. Consequences as a reaction or imposition. Then, coming to relationship of our consciousness and karma, we must remember we are all having this waking conscious now. There is a concept of triple poise of the divine, because the divine exists in this individual, universal, as well as transcendental. This is the triple poise of the divine. So, He, that means the ultimate supreme truth, the reality Brahman, is the divine in the world, the master of a spiritual evolution, and the growing Godhead in humanity. That Godhead grows, however, slowly beyond the dependence on the sanction of pleasure and pain. Alaga, this is the triple poise of the divine. And we should not also depress or any kind of have any despair, nirasha, if we get any kind of a pain. In Savitri, Sri Aurobindo also says, why I am indicating this is because this has a nexus with that, karma is a nexus with this pain, pleasure. We should accept it as a grace. Sometimes we may feel that whatever I have already asked the mother is not granting. We should not feel any kind of a dissatisfaction. Not granting a boon or not granting a gift as sought. In fact, we should consider it as a grace, as a blessing only, for our own benefit. So we should think from that point of view that it is a grace from the mother saying that I have not been blessed for which I sought for. We should think that it is a grace of the Divine Mother. And if we get pain, it is not because of any kind of since we have done something bad, therefore I am undergoing this pain. No, because pain in fact helps in the soul's evolution also. This is because one reads these beautiful lines from Savitri also. In fact, one accepts this pain with so much pleasure. Pain is the hand of nature sculpturing men to greatness. Pain is hammer of God to break a dead resistance in mortal's heart. An inspired labor chisels with heavenly cruelty an unwilling mold. Inside we are so many things which creates as an obstacles. So therefore the pain comes to break that. Because as long as we, keep on developing those unnecessary, which are all unwarranted guests which are deep inside, it really creates so much an embargo, an obstacle for soul's evolution. We also know that in a moment when the inner lamps are lit and these life's cherished guests are left outside, the spirit sits alone and speaks to its gulps. Which means all these jealousy, hatred, because law of karma, all these constitute karma. If we keep on accumulating all these bad wills, thoughts, hatred, jealousy, these are all, we keep on, attract the adverse forces. Once this inner being is full of all those things, the divine jyoti, the divine grace, that delight, will not find any place deep inside to occupy and change our or transform our nature, unless or until all these, Sri Aurobindo very consciously uses the word cherished guests. పెంచి పోషిస్తున్నా మనమే వాటిని చక్కగా భోజనం పెట్టి 3 పూటల గివింగ్ సో మచ్ ఫుడ్ టు దెమ్. ఈరోజు ఒకటి ఉందంటే బలపడుతుంది, వాళ్ళని కోపం చేశాము, ఏదైనా వాళ్ళ మీద అసూయ ఉంది అంటే వాడికి ఇంటికి వచ్చినప్పుడు మాట్లాడుతూ ఉంటే అంత బాగానే ఉంటుంది. బట్ అవుట్ సైడ్ ఇన్ విచ్ కార్ హీ హాస్ కమ్, వెదర్ హీ హాస్ కమ్ ఇన్ దట్ బెంజ్ కార్ ఆర్ విచ్ వన్, ఐ హ్యావ్ ఓన్లీ Maruti 800 విత్ మీ. సో ఆల్ దోస్ థింగ్స్ యూ షుడ్ గెట్ రిడ్ ఆఫ్ ఇట్. So those kind of that introspection and those kind of cherished, all those cherished guests have to be left outside to give a very good platform to the divine to bring his own influence upon them, so that the whole transformation takes place out of it. This is in itself is integral yoga. Both physical, mental, vital, all these I think have to be transformed. So therefore those cherished guests have to be left outside. అప్పుడు అన్నప్పుడు the action obviously brings so much of very positive consequences. ఈ లా ఆఫ్ కర్మ, నేను పాత జన్మలో ఇవన్నీ చేస్తే ఇప్పుడు భరిస్తున్నాను, ఇప్పుడు చేసిన దానికి నేను మళ్ళీ వచ్చే జన్మలో రాక్షసున్నై పుడతాను, బల్లిగా పుడతాను, లేదంటే దయ్యంగానే పుడతాను, ఆల్ దోస్ థింగ్స్ విల్ నాట్ క్రాప్ అప్. So therefore one has to transcend beyond all these things, of all these adverse forces, and equanimity of mind has to be attained, and view everything, because Bhagavad Gita also says dukkeshu anudvigna manaha sukheshu vigata spruhaha vitaraga bhaya krodha stita dhir muni ruchyate. And in second chapter Sankhya Yoga says that be equal. If you want to have a steady mind, just pleasures and pain have to be viewed equally as a grace of the Lord. అంటే ఏదో సంతోషం వచ్చినప్పుడు చాలా ఉబికిపడిపోయి, దుఃఖం వచ్చినప్పుడు చాలా నిరాశపడిపోకుండా ఉండకుండా, ఈ అనురాగము, భయము, క్రోధము, అటాచ్మెంట్, all those things have to be completely shunned away from our personality and attitude. Then the steady mind develops. Then coming back to Sri Aurobindo further says, I have continually to disregard nature's original warnings and lures in order to get a higher nature. I have to develop a nobler spiritual law of karma. చూడండి, అంటే శ్రీ అరవిందుల వారు కూడా చెప్తున్నారు ఇది. These are words of Sri Aurobindo. I have continually to disregard nature's original warnings and lures, అంటే ఎన్నెన్నో ఆశ పెట్టినవి వస్తూ ఉంటాయి కదా అన్నీ, all those things have to be disregarded. Why? In order to get to a higher nature. He says, I have to develop a nobler spiritual law of karma. And further he says, I must still follow after truth. I must do the service to my race my soul demands from me. I must increase my strength and inner greatness, and must not ask for an irrelevant reward, or make a bargain for the exact fruits of my labor. There we come across, in SS on the Gita, we come across this Nishkama Karma also. Action, doing action without expecting any kind of a result. I'll just read it again. I must still follow after the truth. I must do the service to my race my soul demands from me. I must increase my strength and inner greatness and must not ask for an irrelevant reward or make a bargain for the exact fruits of my labor. And that which is true of my connected action and self-development through many births, happiness and sorrow, good fortune or ill fortune, are not my main concern, whether in this birth or in future lives. But my perfection and the higher good of mankind, purchased by whatever suffering or tribulation. So beautiful. And in fact, there is no way concerned with this, whether, happiness and sorrow and good fortune or ill fortune are not my main concern, whether in this birth or in future lives, but my perfection and the higher good of mankind. This, if anyone wants to refer it to this is there in Collective Volumes of Sri Aurobindo, the volume 13, page 373 to 374. This volume 13. Then aspiration ardent, because దీనికి triple labor of this one, it is there in this mother's book also, aspiration, rejection and surrender. మనకు తెలిసిందే. So the aspiration should be ardent, and if there is a collective aspiration, in fact it has a power to change the very course of circumstances. And now coming to shifting of consciousness and how it creates an impact over karma. Sri Aurobindo says, person's karma involves their individual, family and national past. వీటన్నిటి మీద కూడా ఆధారపడి ఉంటుందంట. Person's karma involves their individual, family, national past. However, the moment a seeker commits to spiritual practice and shifts their inner consciousness to a higher level, they step out of the ordinary plane where the past karma operates. That means everything influences a human being. That means his own individuality, his family circumstances and the national. But Sri Aurobindo gives a wonderful clue, saying that the moment a speaker commits to spiritual practice and shifts their inner consciousness to a higher level, then they step out of the ordinary plane where the past karma operates. So one can go out of that past karma if one is able to tune oneself to that inner being. That's the reason why all these, meditation, swadhyaya, at least, let us take out time at least minimum for half an hour, or if we don't get time, minimum 5 to 10 minutes depending upon your own nature of work. All these things continuously help us for soul's evolution and expand the consciousness. అందుకే అంటారు కదా, సత్సంగత్వే నిస్సంగత్వం, నిస్సంగత్వే నిర్మోహత్వం. I think this is there in Adi Shankaracharya's Bhajagovindam. సత్సంగత్వే నిస్సంగత్వం, నిస్సంగత్వే నిర్మోహత్వం, నిర్మోహత్వే నిశ్చలతత్వం, నిశ్చలతత్వే జీవన్ముక్తి. జీవన్ముక్తి అంటే ముక్తి ఇక్కడ ఈజ్ అ లిబరేషన్. That means అన్ని వదిలేసి మనం, because Sri Aurobindo never accepts that, because one must has to engage in action and transform. From the point of view of Sri Aurobindo, liberation is, for us, all of us, is a freedom from ignorance. Asatoma sadgamaya tamasoma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amrutangamaya annatuga, from unreal to the real. Ante manaku that freedom from ignorance is liberation, Jivan Mukti. Ante this, I'll just explain this. Satsangatve nisangatvam, which means being in the company of the wise and good, because all these influence your karma. Being in the company of the wise and good, it helps you to develop non-attachment. This is nisangatvam, to worldly illusions. Nisangatve nirmohatvam. Through this non-attachment, you are freed from delusion and infatuation. త్వరగా ఆకర్షితులు అవుతాం కొన్నిటికి మనం, ఇంప్రెషన్స్ వస్తూ ఉంటాయి, ఇన్ఫ్లుయెన్సెస్ వస్తూ ఉంటాయి. ఇట్ ఈస్ ది వైటల్ క్రేవింగ్స్, impulsions which always keep on influencing. So through this non-attachment you are freed from delusion and infatuation, that is nirmohatvam. Nirmohatve nischalatatvam. When delusion ends, the mind becomes calm, steady and unwavering in the ultimate reality, because it experiences that ultimate supreme truth reality. Nischalatatvam, steady mind. Nischalanga ante telisindi kada maku. Nischalatatve Jivan Mukti means resting in that unwavering state of truth leads to Jivan Mukti, that is liberation while still living in this world. That means freedom from ignorance while experiencing all these. Then Sri Aurobindo very beautifully says about this destiny. Now let us read and understand. The destiny which binds our physical being binds it so long or in so far as a greater law does not intervene. Action belongs to the physical part. Action belongs to the physical part of us. It is a physical outcome of our being, but behind our surface is a freer life power, a freer mind power which has another energy and can create another destiny and bring it into modify the primary plan. And when the soul and self emerges, when we become consciously spiritual beings, that change can cancel or wholly remodel the graph of our physical fate. Karma then, or at least any mechanical law of karma, cannot be accepted as the sole determinant of circumstances and the whole machinery of rebirth and of our future evolution. So therefore, Sri Aurobindo is giving an indication that there is a freer mind power is there and freer life power, and there is higher conscious levels of energy. We must ourselves tune to it. So therefore, that graph of our physical fate changes. In fact, I recollect from one of the talks of Ashramites how, because Lord looking at the things and annihilates this past karma. I think his name is Jaswant Bhai, I think from Gujarat. I was sharing with Prem Chandra uncle last time. And in fact, Jaswant Bhai, I think while he was in the ashram, he was looking for an opportunity to serve Sri Aurobindo. And we know that the Champakda, who was very intimate and close to Sri Aurobindo, because Champakda was in fact even daily washing dhoti of Sri Aurobindo and combing hair of Sri Aurobindo. So Jaswant Bhai, as also being an ashramite, he was also eagerly waiting for an opportunity to serve Lord Sri Aurobindo. And he was constantly looking at the window of Lord Sri Aurobindo. And one day he looks into the window and Sri Aurobindo appears before him and asks us Jaswant Bhai, saying that if you can come over and since Champakda I think seems was not there on that day, he asked the Jaswant Bhai to come over and very with a modest voice, and we know that Sri Aurobindo saying that he doesn't command or order. Is it possible for you to wash my dhoti? And obviously he grabs that opportunity, and he says that when he asked, is it possible to wash dhoti of mine, and can you please bring it back by evening? And he very nicely washes it and brings it back in the evening, and then just was offering pranams at the lotus feet of Lord Sri Aurobindo. Then Sri Aurobindo says like this: with this one act of yours, I washed away all your past karma. So beautiful this. Only one act of washing dhoti, and Sri Aurobindo said, I washed away all your past karmas. And at that point of time, I think Champakda was also, I think he came there, and he was simply looking at Sri Aurobindo, saying that Sri Aurobindo understand the intuitive language of the sadhak. And he was looking at Sri Aurobindo, saying that he has been rendering the service to Lord Sri Aurobindo for a quite very long time, and Sri Aurobindo even didn't say not even once about this, and he was simply looking into the eyes of Sri Aurobindo, and Sri Aurobindo understands that language of I have Champakda and said, and yours too. So therefore it's always, we should always engage in that kind of an activity, because it is only the Lord grace which can nowhere, any other Siddhanta or a philosophy or any kind of a Jainism, Buddhism, this has not been revealed. It is only Sri Krishna and Sri Aurobindo has said this, that the grace has power to annihilate your karmas. Then working in the ashram for the removal of karma, work in the ashram has a powerful effect on one's karma too. It dissolves much of the past karma. If unfavorable, it forges good karma that creates propitious circumstances in life. The more difficult the nature of the work, the more is the effect. The force at work purifies, the force that is there in the ashram, the force at work purifies, frees, puts one in touch with presiding consciousness there. Then we will experience a welling up of a joy of closeness to the divine. There is no fatigue. Then freedom from the law of karma. In fact, if one wants to read much more about this, understand about this law of karma, this in fact has been beautiful paragraphs and the much related information has been published in this All India magazine of December 2021. You can read this. Page 34. I'll just read this. Grace can abolish the consequences of karma. Just now I said that the grace of the Lord has abolished his past karma of that Jaswanta. When one does not repeat one's past mistakes, the divine power, the power of the divine grace abolishes their consequences, their karma in the being. But as long as mistakes are repeated, nothing can be abolished. Because one recreates them at every minute. అందుకే చెప్పాను కదా, ఇంత అనుకున్నాం కదా, స్వామి వివేకానంద చెప్పినట్టుగా, యు ఆర్ ద క్రియేటర్ ఆఫ్ యువర్ ఓన్ డెస్టినీ. లెట్ us be very, very, very mindful. But as long as mistakes are repeated, nothing can be abolished, because one recreates them at every minute. When a person has made a serious error, say a serious mistake, it can be serious or not, but we are concerned primarily with the serious ones. Such mistakes have their consequences in life, a karma which has to be exhausted. The divine grace, if you call upon it, has the power to abolish that karma, to cut short the consequences. But the grace can only do this when you, within yourself, don't begin all over again, when the mistake committed is not renewed. The past can be completely purified and abolished on condition that one does not keep making it into a perpetual present. I have said it there in one sentence, but I did not want people to believe that they can continue making the same stupid blunder indefinitely and have the grace indefinitely annul all the consequences. These are all conditioned precedents for the grace to act upon us. It is not like that. The past can be cleansed to the point where it has no effect of any kind on the future, but only on condition that you stop the wrong vibration in yourself, that you don't reproduce the same vibration indefinitely. Because God always gives us many opportunities. If we go back to the very same committing the very same mistakes and want the grace to act upon us, it's vain to expect that the grace to act upon us. Then the mother says, to tell the truth, just now there is upon earth an opportunity which presents itself only after thousands of years. A conscious help with the necessary power. ఎందుకంటే మనకు ఎన్నో జన్మల తర్వాత ఎంతో అదృష్టంగా లభించింది ఈ మానవ జన్మ. ఇట్స్ నాట్ వెరీ ఈజీ టు గెట్ దిస్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ బర్త్, బీయింగ్ born as a human being. It was once believed that nothing had the power to wipe away the consequences of a karma, that it was only by exhausting it through a series of purificatory acts. Because purification is a very important aspect. Constantly this vital purification, mental purification, all those things have to be done from time to time. That it was only exhausting it through a series of purificatory acts that the consequences could be transformed. Exhausted, effaced, completely removed cheyabadtayi. But with the supramental power, this can be done without the need of going through all the steps of the process of liberation. One more, I will read it from this. Divine grace again completely contradicts karma. You have said here that we are tied to the chain of karma, but then sometimes when the divine grace acts, that contradicts completely. The divine grace completely contradicts karma. It makes it melt away like butter that is put in the sun. That is what I was saying just now. What you have just told me is another way of speaking. I was putting myself in your place and asking, there you are. If you have an aspiration that is sincere enough, or a prayer that is intense enough, you can bring down in you something that will change everything. Truly it changes everything. An example may be given that is extremely limited, very small, but which makes you understand things very well. A stone falls quite mechanically. Say, a tile falls. If it gets loose, it will fall, won't it? But if there comes, for example, a vital or mental determinism from someone who passes by and does not want it to fall and puts his hand out, it will fall on his hand, but it will not fall on the ground. So he has changed the destiny of this stone or tile. It is another determinism that has come in. And instead of the stone falling on the head of someone, it falls upon the hand and it will not kill anybody. This is an intervention from another plane, from a conscious will that enters into the more or less unconscious mechanism. So in fact it is multi-dimensional. The scope is much large to understand this. And overall we should, get rid of that kind of a crude idea saying that if I do good things I will get a reward, and if I do bad things and then I will get a demerit. And ultimately we should understand that it is ultimately the soul's choice to have many experiences. So in the process, all these karmic actions and consequences are continuously taking place, but it is not so saying that is a kind of a punyam or papam or dukkham. So it is ultimately the soul's choice which has decided to go through many experiences. So we should understand from that point of view. With that, we will just pray the Divine Mother for about, because since we have another 5 minutes, we will just close our eyes and meditate for about 5 minutes and pray the Divine Mother to help us to elevate ourselves to levels of higher and higher consciousness, and always shower her choicest blessings and benedictions upon all of us.